Capitulum XXVI, Daedalus et Icarus, Lecture 5, versus 80 tertius, usque adversum 110. Haec verba locutus, Daedalus cum filio sursum e labyrinto evolavit, neque quisquam fugam eorum anima advertit, nisi aliqui pastor, qui forte suspiciens, eos tamquam magnas aves volantes videt, ac Deus esse arbitratus est. Having spoken these words, perfect passive participle, but from a deponent verb, and so active in meaning, having spoken these words, Daedalus evolavit, flew out, ex volare, perfect tense, evolavit, flew out of the labyrinth, e labyrinto, cum filio, with his son. Not just flew out, but flew up out, sursum e labyrinto evolavit. Neque quisquam, and no one noticed animadvertere, animadvertisse, and so the spelling of the third person singular, present and perfect are the same. And no one noticed their escape, except some shepherd. Aliqui here being used adjectivally, as opposed to aliquis, the pronoun. Except some shepherd who chanced, forte, by chance, coincidentally, looking up, suspiciens, that is, looking up from below, sub in spicere, saw them, eos vidit. Notice the macron over the I, and it's not et at the end, but it, and so the perfect tense, saw them. And here tamquam doesn't introduce a new clause or sentence, but something in apposition, essentially, to eos. Saw them just like big birds flying. And supposed, arbitrari, very similar to putare, but it is a deponent verb. And supposed that they were gods. Remember always that it's necessary to translate the infinitive relative to the time of the main verb. So esse is a present infinitive, but because the main verb is perfect tense, then esse will also be located in the past. Mox pater et filius Cretam reliquerunt. Soon father and son left Crete behind, reliquerunt, perfect tense. Neque vero recta via Athenas in patriam suam volaverunt, sed nova libertate delectati in magnum orbem supra mare Aegeum volare ceperunt. But they did not, neque vero. We won't translate both of those conjunctions in English. One is enough for us in English, and in Latin we can think of them as working together to form a very solid adversative, neque and vero. But they did not fly, volaverunt, directly, recta via, by a straight path. So the ablative being used with a sort of adverbial force, another ablative of mode, perhaps a sort of a means, perhaps a grab bag ablative, but at any rate we can see that adverbial force, recta via, by a straight route or road to Athens, the name of the city in the plural, in imitation of its spelling in Greek, Athene, Athenarum, and no preposition, because in Latin names of cities and towns, as well as small islands, have special local relations as far as their the usage or non-usage with prepositions is concerned. So a terminal accusative, but no odd athenos, just athenos. They did not fly straight to Athens, that is, to Athens, into their homeland, into their fatherland, in patriam, in with the accusative, into, but delighted, delectati. Strictly speaking, I suppose it's something like having been delighted, but with a present force. But delighted by their new liberty, libertas, libertatis, third declension. They began to fly, ceperunt volare, in a big circle above the Aegean Sea. So what we can do with delectati is we can see that perfect passive participle functioning very much as an adjective, but it does let us know, since it is a perfect passive participle, that it took place before the main verb ceperunt. So what happened? Well, first of all, they were delighted. They had this joy and elation, the joy of flying and the elation of being free. And then what happened? Subsequently, they began to fly. So perhaps we should go back and say, having been delighted by their new liberty, they began, after that point, to fly in a big circle above the Aegean Sea. Icarus de speciens multitudinem insularum miratus est, o quod parve insulae in mari ingenti sunt. Icarus, looking down upon. A moment ago we saw sub specidae, to look up at from below, and here is to look down upon, de specidae, looking down upon the multitude. The English cognate is very clear. The multitude of islands, he marveled. Deponent verb, mirari. Getting close to, he admired, but he marveled, he was in awe. Oh, how many small islands there are, sunt, in the huge sea, in mari ingenti, ablatives, ingens, ingentus, a third declension adjective. Oh, how many small islands there are in the huge sea. Daedalus vero, ille insulae inquit haud parve sunt, quam parve esse videntur. But Daedalus says, those islands are not at all small, although they seem to be small. They are seen to be small, which we'll handle in English by saying generally seem, although they seem to be small. Certe, melos insula, quae infra nos est, non tam parva est quam tibi videtur. Certainly, Melos island, the island of Melos, but both nominative in Latin, which is below us, infra nos est, is not so small, non tam parva est, as quam tibi videtur, as it appears to you, as it seems to you. Icarus. Sed illa insula, quae nobis a sinistra est, multo maior esse mihi videtur, quae est illa insula. But that island, which is on the left of us, seems to me to be much bigger. Which island is that? Notice the expression in the second line, which is on our left, or which is to the left of us. not the preposition that we would expect. Ab. It is on the left hand, at the left side, relative to us. So note that prepositional use. And then the dative, nobis. It is at the left, to us, for us, sort of ethical dative. Multo maior esse mihi videtur. It seems to me to be bigger, maior, the comparative degree of the adjective, from manius, by much, the ablative, the degree of difference. Which island is that? Daedalus. Peloponnesus est, Greciae pars, nec vero insula est, sed peninsula, nam Peloponnesus, terra angusta, quae isthmus vocatur, cum reliqua Greciae conjungitur. It is the Peloponnesus, a part of Greece, but it is not an island, but a peninsula. For the Peloponnesus is joined with the rest of Greece by a narrow land, which is called the isthmus. Pars Greciae, pars being in opposition to Peloponnesus, the subject of the sentence, and then that strong conjunction, adversative here, nec vero, but it's not an island, but a nearly an island, peninsula. So peninsula is put together from pene, that adverb, nearly, almost, and insula. But it is a almost island, a peninsula. For the Peloponnesus conjungitur is joined with, cum and jungere are the components of that verb, is joined with the rest of Greece, reliqua Graecia, ablative of means, by means of a narrow land, terra angusta, which is called the isthmus. Prope isthmum sita est Corinthus, urbs pulcherrima, nec procolab sunt Athene, patria nostra. Near the isthmus, Corinth is located, is situated. Corinth, an extremely beautiful city. And Athens is not far away. Athens, our homeland, our fatherland. Urbs pulcherrima, in opposition to Corinthus. Recall that the names of cities and towns will be feminine or neuter in gender, and so Corinthus, Corinthi, second declension, but feminine. Of course, pulcherrima is feminine because it's agreeing with urbs, urbis, which is feminine. Pulcherrima, the superlative degree of the adjective, pulcher, pulchra, pulchrum. Athene, Athenarum, recall. Plural, because in Greek the name of Athens is in the plural, and we've done the same thing in English. Athens. Not far away is Athens, we would say. Notice that the verb is plural because Athene is plural in Latin, so ob sunt, and patria nostra in opposition to Athene. And in putting together this slide, I managed by very happy chance to come across some contemporary artists' illustration of ancient Corinth, and it's quite well done. And if you've ever been there, get a chance to go there, you know that the Acra of Corinth, just like the Acropolis in Athens, there's a massive Acra hillside citadel area with many Byzantine and Venetian ruins above the towers above the city. And of course a famous port there, not today I don't believe, but for the ancient world. Si altius volabimus, non solum Greciam, sed pene totum urbem terrarum spectabimus, inquit puer temerarius, atque etiam altius se levavit. Notice again the precise use of the tenses, where we would in English would use the present tense, they have the future tense. If we will fly higher, or if we will fly more highly, as it were. Altius, the comparative degree of the adverb. Non solum sed pene, coordinating here. We will see, spectabimus, not only Greece, but nearly the whole circle of lands. Orbis terrarum, a way to talk about the globe, the whole world. We will see not only Greece, but nearly the whole globe, the whole circle of lands. Says the rash boy, temerarius puer, and he lifted himself, se levavit, even higher. That is, even more highly. Etiam altius se levavit. Ilink non solum manias Europae et Asiae partes despiciebat mirans, verum etiam oram Africae procul cernebat. Deinde supra se solem in cielo sereno lucentem suspexit. From there, marveling mirans, he was looking down on, imperfect tense of the verb, not only non solum, large parts, great parts of, genitives in the middle, of Europe and Asia, verum etiam, but also the coast or the region of Africa. He was descrying, he was spotting it. Cernere, sometimes the idea is not just see, but to see with some effort or with some difficulty. He was seeing the coast of Africa from afar, procul. Then he looked up from underneath, suspexit, above himself, supra se, he looked up from underneath at the sun, lucentem, present participle, shining in the clear, in the serene sky. So a couple of imperfect verbs here in these two coordinated parts of the sentence, coordinated by non solum, verum etiam. Not only this he was doing, but also that he was doing. Then perfect tense verb, suspexit. Statimbuer cupidus solem propius aspiciendi quamquam pater eum monuerat in sumum caelum ascendit. Immediately the boy, desirous of looking at the sun more closely, although his father had warned him, went up into the highest part of the sky. So cupidus, as we've seen many times now in this chapter, with a sort of genitive object, here not a noun, but a verbal idea, and so the gerund of looking at, and then auspiciendi as a verbal idea, as a gerund, it is taking a direct object, and that's solem, and it's being modified by an adverb, and that's propius. So prope, closely, and propius, more closely. Although his father had warned him, monere, monuisse, monitum, the pluperfect tense, monuerat. Though his father had warned him, ascendit, another verb in which we cannot see the difference in spelling between third person singular present tense and perfect tense. Here the context lets us know that it's perfect tense. He went up into the highest sky. We would express that partitively in English.